Have you seen the Vaush's unironically evil video that's exploding? Um, I don't know if I mean, I don't think it hit the YouTube algorithm, but yeah, I think a lot of people have seen it. Yeah, I saw a bit of it off stream. A lot of people make videos criticizing me, and I usually don't watch all of them on stream because if I did, I'd be giving them attention. And usually, videos that critique me are really dumb and bad faith. Like there was this one channel that would come out with videos criticizing me every month or so, and it was some far right channel, and it was always like the dumbest shit, you know, like Vaush is evil because trans people are gay or something like that. I mean, it was, yeah, stuff like that. Uh, but anyway, so when I saw the video the other day, and God, the title, unironically evil. Okay. Um, um, anyway, I saw the video and we saw the section on fascism, you know, like where they tried to apply the tenets of Umberto Eco's 14 points of Urfascism to me, and it was really bad, you know? Did any of you guys see that? It was kind of like an indication that they had a very poor understanding of Umberto Eco's Eurofascist points. Yeah, like laughably bad, you know? Like we watched with you. Not all of you watch every one of my streams. Anyway, I only saw that bit because it was like a 2-hour video, so I saw that like little chunk of it, you know? And and I thought that was bad, but I could only watch so much because stream was going to end soon, and it's like 2 million years long. So I thought, okay, I'll watch like the rest of it later. Anyway, I later looked on Reddit, and it turned out the guy who posted that video to both my subreddit and the Destiny's responded to my critique of that fascism segment, and their response was essentially it was a joke. So like that was my opening to this video. It was like the one section I saw was really bad, and then I take a look at the creator, and he was like, oh, yeah, well, it was just meant to be a joke parodying your bad understanding of fascism. He wrote it in more words than that, but that seemed to be the gist because it was a pretty indefensible misunderstanding of those principles. Um, so anyway, that was my opening. And so then I read the script because they posted the script to the video uh, in the YouTube comment section, you know? And I looked over all of it because I can read way faster than I can like listen to a video. Um, and thought most of it was pretty bad. Um, it actually opens with saying that it was incredibly bad faith of me to not take Count Dankula at his word that he wasn't a white supremacist. A lot of the video was breaking down like specific. It was like that, and then it was like the Prime Kai panel and the fascism thing, and a lot of it. Well, how do I put this succinctly? Um, I want to just say that it's bad faith and that it's made by like a delusional like anti-fan, but I think I can be a little more constructive than that. Um, I think the most accurate thing that I could say about it was that while there are some underlining like good points throughout the whole video, a lot of it is based on either a really bad like faith interpretation of what I say or really ridiculous extrapolations based on cultivating and cherry picking a selection of things that I've said. The problem is when you've live streamed thousands of hours of content, if you want to clip things out in a particular way, you can always make somebody look one way or another, you know? Like I would be very surprised if there was any like political like content creator online who live streamed who you couldn't do that to some extent or another. Given how much hyperbole I tend to engage in, I think I'm probably more vulnerable to that than a lot of others. So the good parts from the video, from the script that I read, because I read the script, I didn't watch the video. But the script was very comprehensive. It was 100 pages or so. The good parts of it were, I think there were some salient criticisms about very reactively siding with my sort of partisan bias whenever it comes to breaking news, like police shootings. Um, I think there's legitimacy to that. And there were a couple of arguments in there where I think he took me to task. One of them was a misrepresentation of Sam Harris's arguments concerning systemic racism, where he did a big like right after George Floyd's murder, he did a big like podcast episode that I only looked a section of it at, and then like was uncharitable in that. I think those were pretty compelling, but a lot of that stuff was from over a year ago. A lot of the criticisms came from content that were like 2 years old, so a lot of this is stuff I've tried to work on anyway, you know, to varying extents. in terms of the bad stuff, I think that a lot of this really does come off like a delusional screed written by a person who despises me. The video is literally called Vaush is Unironically Evil. And it turns out that a couple of months ago, that guy made a Reddit post, the Destiny subreddit, saying that I'm morally responsible for Kyle Rittenhouse's killings. That because I'm anti-police and because I'm like, no, seriously. Because I'm anti-police and because I'm partisan in my advocacy for anti-fascism and other stuff like that, that my language is what led the people to attack Kyle Rittenhouse, which is what led Kyle Rittenhouse to shoot them. And this is like such an absurd... If you're going by that logic, you could say anyone who's ever criticized the police or anyone who's ever talked about anti-fascist violence in like a positive light is responsible. So that to me suggests like delusional behavior. And then you personally, I mean, it said me personally, yeah. And then like all the top comments underneath the Vaush is Unironically Evil video are from Sargon of Akkad, Count Dankula, and Short Fat Otaku, who have been liked and hearted by the person who made the video, who is ostensibly on the left. So I'll say this much. While there are certainly some like salient criticisms throughout the entirety of the hour-and-a-half long video, I guess there would have to be. If you talk about me for that long, you have to say at least a few things that are correct, right? I think that a lot of it comes off as, like, questionable at best, you know? So I guess those are my thoughts reading the script. Maybe my feelings would change if I watched the video, but the script had all the language of the video, so I don't necessarily know. In your opinion, what do you think is the best critique you've ever got from either leftist or from a right-winger? I don't think I've ever gotten good critique from a right-leaning person. The best critique I've gotten from left-leaning people, I mean, Booksmarts gave me good criticism, I think, when I talked with him. Though I disagree with him on a lot of stuff, Zigzizi, Lonerbox, yeah, they've... Yeah. I think they've levied some pretty good criticism, you know? Are there any other thoughts that I have? I'm trying to think if there's anything else that I have in mind. Oh yeah, another thing that makes me really suspect about the politics behind the video on me is that a lot of it was, like a big section of it, maybe like a quarter of the script, was trying to impugn me by assembling quotes where I said mean things about conservatives. Like how the modern Republican Party is fascist, and Republicans support fascism, and how they would have been throwing rocks at little black children trying to integrate into the schools back in the back 50 years ago, and stuff like that, which I think are very defensible comments. I don't know why you'd think conservatives today wouldn't have acted like the conservatives back then. There's a pretty clear ideological through line from then to now, but a lot of this stuff was like being assembled as part of a broader argument that I'm like dehumanizing conservatives, which is weird because I think for the most part, I try to make an effort not to. I might try to indicate that conservatives are ultimately a victim of their own ideology, that they're dangerous and their ideas are horrible, but that's not the same as dehumanization. I'm sure, I mean, I've said the term subhuman, but, well, I got that from somebody else, okay? I think for the most part, I'm pretty clear in my messaging on that. Hassan dehumanizes them way more than you. Yeah, where's the Hassan cancellation, actually? Anyone else have any salient questions? About the video, I mean. Because I heard Destiny watched it, which is not surprising to me, but since some of you guys come directly from that, I'll hear it out. Do you think there are similarities between the hate D gets with his friendship with Lauren Southern and your friendship with Shu? I think anyone who's comparing Lauren Southern to Shu on Head is, like, delusional, and is, like, their head has been completely clouded with internet memes. The idea that there could be any parallel between, like, anti-SJW from 2016 and white nationalist banned from several countries tied to stochastic terrorism responsible for trying to drown refugees out in the sea. Stuff like that, you know? I feel like there's a, yeah. Vaush, this is a very cowardly way of debunking the video against you. Yeah, I've seen you in chat, like, complaining that I won't watch the whole thing. I don't, like, generally watch multi-hour-long, like, fucking video breakdown criticisms of me under any circumstances. But that's, like, a pretty stereotypical way of trying to bait me into it. Like, dude, you're a coward for not dedicating an entire live stream to responding. Yeah, no. Do you know this guy, Hakeem? He has multiple videos calling you stupid. Here is one. Yes, I am aware of who Hakeem is. Thank you for reminding me of his existence. Honestly, I mostly just laughed and called you a sellout when reacting to your shoe video. Damn, I actually think the shoe on head was pretty responsible, but Destiny has long since lost the ability to understand the plot when it comes to issues like this. So not terribly surprising to me. Hassan's cancellations every 9/11. That was such a that was such a weak cancellation, man. The 9/11 stuff. I know he got in trouble with his uncle about it and like the Fox News thing and everything, but that's so defensible, you know? Wait, I just found out who Lauren Southern is. What the fuck is that banned from multiple countries thing? Wait, Lauren Southern is banned from multiple countries, right? Am I thinking of another person? Am I thinking of another Canadian? I'm almost positive she is. Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. I'm almost positive. Yeah, she's banned from England. Very nice. Um, as one does. Do you know anything about Vicky 1999? I recognize the name, but apart from that, no. I don't think so. What's your position on anti-moral realism, since that was one of the critiques of the video? Oh, yeah. That was from that debate with Rem. The funny thing is that, like, Rem postures as some kind of, like, philosophical, you know, like, expert. I mean, the way he fronts himself as, even though he was an undergrad, it turned out he never even got a degree. Recently, it was found out that he never even, like, yeah, so I don't know, like, how much of his credentials he's lying about, but the thing is, like, I have no philosophy education whatsoever, literally none. So when my engagement with stuff like moral anti-realism is just, I hear arguments that seem more convincing to me, and I try to learn a little bit about them, but, like, I could be moved over to another one, you know? When Rem came on, he demonstrated a horrendous inability to understand my position. What I was describing was epistemic anti-realism, which is a position I feel like you should be fairly well educated on if you have a fucking degree, or pretend to have one, in philosophy, you know? And if he wanted to argue against that, that'd be fine, but his position was that I was like a complete nihilist who only believed in power. But what I was trying to reiterate was the argument that Foucault makes. Foucault talks about how knowledge and power reify each other and reproduce each other. To put it another way, what we consider to be true, if there is no universal truth, will always be framed through the modes of analysis that those who are powerful inflict onto us. Does that make any sense? Or to put it another way, those in power have the privilege of constructing the frameworks through which we decide what is or is not true, moral truths and empirical truths. That was the argument that I was making, you know? And this is a position that I still haven't really seen debunked, but if you had like a horrible tyrannical regime, they could construct a truth in which they could rewrite history however they saw fit. And because there's no one universal definitive truth, that truth would be something people within that framework would have to contend with. It's a truth I would find morally reprehensible, but it's a thing that could be constructed. This happens in dictatorial regimes all the time, doesn't it? We see it's not just that they're like, it's not just that they're lied to or that information is controlled. It's that the way they come to understand the nature of reality is, yeah, I mean, it's literally 1984. So that was my position. But then Rem ran back to Destiny crying about how I don't believe the Holocaust happened or something. And how this stems from my nihilistic view that only power is what matters. What is an axiomatic value? An axiom is like a fundamental or like a properly basic belief, like something that you assign moral worth like out the gate. You know what I mean? Like you could say that you have an axiomatic value where you value like human well-being right at the beginning. You know, it gets more complicated than that, but it's essentially like a first principle. What do you mean when you say universal truth? Well, postmodernists, which I guess I think I am sometimes, God, there are elements of postmodernism that I believe in, one of which is that there's no such thing as a universal truth. So it's a modernist perspective that humanity is engaging in some great project forward, and that there is a narrative you can use to describe that project. Marx was a modernist. He described, you know, through dialectic materialism and historical materialism, the way in which the human project advances. That would be a modernist belief. That would be a universal truth to him. But I don't know if I believe in that. I don't know if there's one narrative that can describe the totality of human experience. Did you see Perspective Philosophy share the Vaush on a Yeah, Perspective Philosophy is a fucking lunatic. He's a huge weasel. He came on my stream and like pretended to talk with me in good faith for a few hours and then ran back and, like, lied about me and has for, like, a year since, so. Some people. Quixotics. Yeah, I think so. It's something that I'm trying to work on a little bit, but I do think that the conversation about breaking events is a little bit more complicated than what a lot of people pretend it is. So, usually what'll happen is let's not pretend this isn't a Destiny community thing. When Destiny says stuff that's patently incorrect, like when he said that Dylan Burns was grifting and lying to further his career to knock off Prime Kai, and that Katarana was just like using, like stuff like that, you know, he doesn't really get much like reciprocal backlash for it, but he keeps his hands off immediate breaking politics so that when other people comment on them, he can attack them. The thing is, I think you kind of have to comment on breaking news. You can't let the narrative be completely controlled by conservatives. Like, do you think that's how you like manage political discourse? Like, anytime anything happens, the conservatives are the ones who get the first 48 hours of like political discourse and speculation, and like everyone on the left completely shuts the fuck up. I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. I think that it is important to create narratives around breaking news. It's just important to frame them in a way that leaves interpretations open to whatever possible futures might rise from uh, information that comes about. How do you ethically do breaking news, though? Well, I mean, the strictest way that you could do it is simply by reporting things that have already happened. Um, but that's never where politics takes place, you know? Politics isn't about what has happened. Politics is about what should happen in response to what has happened. So I don't know if I agree with that being like the line right there. You could talk about like, hey, there's the potential things go this way, and if that's the case, this is bad and here's why. But if you go down that road, you kind of imply that that is the thing that is going to happen down the road. I don't know if there's a way to balance it perfectly, but I do know that the cultural consequences would be disastrous if we ceded all information to conservatives up until we get like official police reports anytime anything like that happens. There's got to be a better way to handle stuff like that than that. It is something that frustrates me though, because I do feel like it's really difficult for me to find good criticism, you know? I know I'm not perfect. I think I'm pretty good, all things considered. I know I'm not perfect, but like, so often criticism comes from people who are delusionally hateful towards me. And sometimes I get criticism from good sources, but usually it's a little more fellow content creator criticism than it is like a holistic uh a takedown of the please Vaush, I can fix you. Yeah, well, many have tried. You do seem to generate very passionate, albeit bad faith criticism. Yeah, it's unfortunate. I wonder what wonder what makes me so special in that regard. I don't think I'm uniquely infuriating. I know there are people online who are more obnoxious with their platforms than I am. The man bun? It probably doesn't help. I'm trying to think if there's like a really good, like specific reason, you know what I mean? I think I think if I had to make any guess at it, I think it's because I mix all of the irreverent antagonism of a debate bro with the pointed political partisanship of like an advocate for a certain position. So on one hand, when people are like super like edgy and engaged online, oftentimes they're not as committed to their positions as political partisans are, which means it's easier for them to fall back and sort of play the friend game, but I can't really do that, you know? Shu could do that. You're extremely bad faith, especially to conservatives, Vosh. You even said the only reason you treated Hunter Avalon good is because Shu told you to. I see we have a person who watched the video. Well, that section, by the way, was one of the indications that I got that that video, the Vaush's unironically evil thing, was a really dumb video. So the statement that I had made was that Shu telling me information about Hunter Avalon changed how I treated Hunter Avalon. If you think that's an indication that you're bad faith, that the way you treat people changes depending on information you have about a person, then you don't know what bad faith is. What do you, what do you think bad faith is? Like I frame my conversation in a way that takes into account info I have on the people I'm talking to. What a dishonest person. What? But that was being framed as some ultra bad faith thing. It's really weird. That's not what that means. Yeah, a nice, look at marijuana cigarette right now. Just watch the video instead of debunking chatter. So you have a bad point and then you run away from it. Yeah, I see. No more baiting from you. Shush.